I've been nervous to ask you about your dissertation because I'm not sure how much I'm going to care. And I'm afraid that you might talk about it for 3 hours.
Yeah, that's a great sensitivity. I could just give you the thumbnail sketch, right?
I'm like that with anybody who's doing a PhD. I'm like, oh God, this is all you've been thinking about for years.
Yeah.
I really want to be careful before I ask you, so what's it about?
Yeah, it's about how the mysteries of the life of Christ save.
Yeah, bored. See? Next topic. No, I'm just joking. Mysteries of the life of Christ save.
Yeah, Christ lived a whole life. Why? You know, why not come, snap his merit fingers, and then leave? As he is wont. I guess that's more of like an Esmeralda dance.
We're dancing again.
Yeah. So why did he live a whole life? And what's the significance of the various deeds and sufferings?
Do you take the sort of Franciscan approach or the Thomistic approach? I imagine it's the latter, in regards to the absolute supremacy of Christ.
Yeah.
Interestingly, Albert the Great sided with the Franciscans.
Yeah.
Even though it was kind of like, hey, this is my opinion, whatever, not a big deal.
What do you mean specifically by absolute supremacy of Christ?
If sin, Christ. If no sin, no Christ.
Yeah.
I find the Franciscan thing way more beautiful.
No, hey, beauty is an argument. I'm not going to.
I haven't thought it through a great deal, but it just seems like, and this is to your point, right? That if there were no sin, then the Franciscan idea and some of the church fathers' idea is that you would still have Christ, because in addition to the redemption, we get these other things, you know, like the Mother of God and other things like that you wouldn't have. But anyway, have you thought a great deal about that?
I thought some, not a great deal.
Me neither.
I typically follow St. Thomas Aquinas on most things, unless the church has formally said you oughtn't. It seems like a bad way to go. In this case, okay, so like the divine causality remains available to us as human beings, you know, before, during, and after the incarnation, because were it not available to us, we would pass out of existence.
Okay.
What Christ does is he makes the divine he makes God more human, right? More easy, more proximate. Those are the words that St. Thomas uses. Humanior, facilior, et proximior. Okay?
Beautiful.
So like, it's not that he makes something possible that wasn't formerly possible. He makes something better, right? But you can say that about the plans of God, you know, forever and always. They can always be made better because, you know, the power of God is such that he can improve upon what he has presently done. Because God isn't motivated by best possible world. He's motivated by the thing that he's chosen in light of his wisdom. So I think it's cool to sound the depths of the divine wisdom and be like, what were you thinking about there?
Yeah.
Right? But we can't ever hope to say, like, he was thinking about this thing precisely because of this reason, and it can't be approved upon because we've got it figured it out. Because we don't comprehend, you know, who has known the mind of the Lord or who has been his counselor, ... etc. Quote St. Paul, great guy. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay.
All right.
But I wondered if that would in some way come into what you're studying about the whole life of Christ.
Yeah. It does.
As you say, right? Because it's not just about like redemption. It's like something else happened. So go on.
Basically,
tip your toes into it, and I'll let you know if I'm...
if you're getting bored?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. So basically, my contention is that the Lord accommodates salvation in a way that's best suited to our reception. All right? So the Lord makes salvation available to us in the way that we're best able to receive it, or, you know, very well able to receive it. That's not English. Whatever. So, like, part of the reason for which he lives a whole human life is because we're destined to live a whole human life. And so the Lord gives us his life so that we can graft our life into his. I'm like gesticulating and wild. It's like, it's not clear to me that his life is here. Whatever. So just as our Lord takes his humanity kind of top to bottom, so he has a human soul with its intellect, will, passions, co-assumed defects like hunger, thirst, suffering, death, right? Human body. He takes all of that top to bottom. So he takes a whole human life start to finish so that we can find our humanity in his, right? So that our humanity can have in him like the focal point of the giving of salvation, the receiving of salvation. And so, like, why does our Lord choose to be conceived and born and presented in the temple, etc., all the way down the line? Because in those mysteries, we meet him, right? We're conformed to him. And being conformed to the Christ, we're conformed to God.
What does that mean, conformed to him? How am I conformed to him, say, in the finding of him in the temple? What does that mean?
So, like, clear example would be, so passion and resurrection are ones that St. Thomas talks about the most because those are the ones that St. Paul talks about the most. Okay. And St. Paul will often talk about it in terms of the sacraments. So, like in baptism, right? You often in the early church, you'd be immersed. Still now, you may be immersed. You descend into the waters with him. And the imagery there in like Romans and Colossians is that you're buried with him. You die. All right? The old man dies. And then when you come forth from the waters, you rise unto new life, right? That's the new man.
Right.
So there's like a ritual kind of reenactment of the Lord's passion and death. So you're made like him in his passion. You're made like him in his death. And by his death, sin is put to death in you.
Okay.
And by his resurrection, a newness of life is imparted. So it's like he does these things. They become wellsprings of grace, but a particular kind of grace, which corresponds to every aspect of our salvation. Because our salvation has this narrative structure. It's not like, boom, you're saved. All right? It's like, well, you receive the influx of grace, but then it's supposed to mature over the lifetime of sanctification. But it's not just like the Lord's like, hey, here's the principle, now make the best that you can of it. He's like, no, you're with me all the way down the line.
Okay, but what about non-passion, death, resurrection events of our Lord? Like, why does any of that matter? I mean, it matters, I guess, but how am I conformed? I don't know. I still don't know what that means, conformed, I guess.
Yeah. So, like, would you be interested in the ascension, or are you thinking about more obscure things?
No, I'm thinking like
the plucking of the eyebrows.
Plucking of the eyebrows.
He wouldn't have.
No.
Yeah, you can't meet him there.
That's amazing.
Jesus wouldn't have plucked his eyebrows?
I don't know, man. I'm making stuff up over here. Okay. I usually signal the fact when I am, so fear not.
Well, but finding in the temple kind of thing.
Yeah, so finding the temple is a great example insofar as our Lord is lost to his parents for 3 days.
Right.
At that stage of the game, that domestic church, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, is the church, right? Because like the people of Israel haven't yet been kind of like grafted into the church, or they haven't been yet, whatever, ... That's a complicated story, Romans 9 through 11. So what we have there is our Lord is lost to the church for 3 days, and then he is restored, right? So you have a kind of prefigurement of the resurrection. So just as, you have a prefiguration of the glory in the transfiguration, so too you have a prefiguration of the loss in...
And is the idea that these connections help us understand it better?
They show us like that it's deliberate, that it's intentional, that it doesn't happen by mistake, that it doesn't happen by accident, that God has a plan for our lives and that plan is good, and that we don't fall through the cracks of his grasp, that we're all held there by a conscious purpose, which is like dead set on pulling us from death into life, specifically in his flesh. So I'm not like a big fan of trying to say like, this mystery means this thing, and this mystery means that, like all the way down the line. Not to say that that's a bad thing, because there are many pious authors who do that, and they do it to good effect. Like Columba Marmion is a classic example, the mysteries of the life of Christ. Or like Christ and his mysteries, I should say. But I think that what we see in the mysteries is the kind of differentiation of the divine causality, like the divine efficiency. And you see it like it's different shapes, it's different sizes. It's like the divine salvific will is passed through a prism, and what you see refracted is all of its different facets, like a kind of living technicolor salvation coat. Never mind, Gregory, take that back.
Disco ball. Disco ball.
Yes,
disco
exactly.
ball, and then light is, Yeah.
So it helps us who, come to the attainment of the truth by means of images and stories and narratives and all kinds of partial or fragmentary truths. It kind of spins out the divine causality in this visible narrative way, so that we can be like, okay, I think I'm getting it. Like, not that I've got it, because we'll not get it until such time as we behold it, in his flesh. But it appeals to us as image driven, as, on the way, as wayfarers.
Is there something, is there one insight that you would say that you've learned from all of your study having to do with this that you could crystallize and help me understand?
I would say that the Lord articulates his saving desire for you in the way that is best suited to its recognition and reception.
Okay.
So basically, the Lord is a master teacher. He's a master pedagogue. All right? But in this particular case, it's not just a lesson to be imparted. It's like a life story to be communicated, to be manifested and communicated. And so the Lord is, let's say that it's a play. The Lord is the playwright. He is the producer. He's the director. He's the principal actor. He's like the one who's inspiring the other actors, etc. And the Lord has made it such that it is the story most perfectly suited to your reception, or to your recognition and reception of salvation. It's a story that's designed. It is tailor-made for your entry. He has thought about it unto ages of ages, right? He has desired it unto ages of ages, and he seeks always and everywhere to make manifest and communicate it for you, specifically for you. So I think that that's what I love about the delicacy and the subtlety of the mysteries of the life of Christ, is that like God is making it such that his son's life conspires toward your salvation, like your salvation.
His
in a very
son's
personal
life makes what?
Makes it
Conspire?
such that
He said conspires.
yeah, conspires. He's up in his salvation workshop, and he's like, they are not gonna believe it. It's like he has set his will on your salvation, and so the way that he spins out the life of his son is tailor-made to precisely that end. So it's like, it's not by accident, right? It's not by happenstance. It's deliberate, it's intentional, it's purposeful, and it communicates a whole wealth of content, all of which content is for your recognition and reception, and then eventual conformity to or assimilation to the divine life itself. Maybe I should speak slower. That was somebody gave me that comment actually at the end of a mass in the past week. They're like, hey, it was great, but you might consider speaking slower. I was like, I've been trying to slow down for like 15 years and I stink at it. So yes, I guess my studies have communicated that point.
Yeah. And how far are you from being done?
I probably can deposit a version of it in the winter. So like somewhere between late January and early March. So close. Yeah. I was given 3 years by my province, and I should be able to defend by the end of that third year.
Will you come back to the States?
I will, yeah.
Are you looking forward to that?
In some ways. I'm already starting to lament the loss of the life there, because it's a beautiful life there.
Yeah, yeah. Because will you be put in a parish, or?
No, I'll probably teach.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, which I like.
Like University of America, or?
I'll probably teach, like the House of Studies or Providence College are our two big institutions, yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. So.
Sweet.
Totally.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.